Hello and welcome back to AIBC Summit. We're here to bring you all the latest news in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space. So if you are a fan of the industry, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now joining me on the line, I have one of my very favorite influencers and possibly the most morning person in crypto. It's Ivan on Tech. Ivan, great to talk to you today.
Good to be here. Good to be here, Jessica. Thank you for having me.
And what a great time to be having this conversation. We've woken up today and I think everyone's woken up on the right side of the bed. Markets are up. We've seen Bitcoin well past this 9,000 US dollar mark. We've seen, as recorded by the Mozari website, Bitcoin dominance hovering around 70%. So I want to get your insights on what we've seen. Are we now in the bull run?
Absolutely. We've been in the bull market ever since we left 3K last year. So I think absolutely we are in a bull market. And especially now that we've crossed the psychological barrier of 9,000, which was very significant. We tried it a few weeks back, approximately 1 week back. When we broke 9K, we went to 9.2K. Then we headed back to 8.3K. But now we have for sure broken 9K and trying to establish ourselves at this 9.3, 9.4 levels. But what's important is to keep an eye on 9.4. If we can breach 9.4, which is a very significant resistance level, then I think we have clear skies to 10K and maybe even higher.
Pure skies to 10K. And if we do remember on winter of 2017, actually the difference in time between 10K and 20K was very short indeed. So that's definitely something to remember. Now, on the topic of news this week, we have seen that the football club PSG has announced they'll be releasing a fan token, and the first polls have started this week for the first voting decision. Now, this is to decide what inspirational message the captain will wear in his shirt. And from an adoption point of view, the football industry is just absolutely huge. What's your take on this?
Absolutely, especially when you see a lot of crypto companies sponsoring football teams in Europe, and it's been very significant. And I'm following that development, and it's good that we have projects like Socios doing tokens for clubs, and they have adopted a lot of big important clubs, and it's very good. In one way or another, if people can get exposed to crypto and understand what crypto is in one way or another, it's amazing. Especially if they can do it through their passion, and football is a big passion for many people.
And I think the particularly interesting thing about this is you can actually explain the concept without having to use the phrase cryptocurrency, which for us in the industry, from an adoption perspective, that's what it's all about. Now, I do want to touch on last week, as you were in Davos, as was a lot of other blockchain and cryptocurrency influencers. Charles Hoskinson was also there. So he has announced this week that Cardano has been partnering with PwC, which is, as we know, a $42 billion organization. We've seen the price increase around 13% on the back of this news. When we look at just the magnitude of what this could bring for Cardano, are we expecting this to be just the beginning of a bull run?
It's very significant, especially Cardano is in a position where it's really time to deliver. It's really time to bring out working products and great partnerships. So this is very significant, and I think Cardano will be very important this year together with Tezos, because they both bring functional programming to the table. And functional programming basically means that you can mathematically verify what your smart contract is doing, and it's very important. Functional programming is used, and this way of verifying code is used in all kinds of mission critical systems. For example, when you have airplane management systems or train management systems, I mean, we're dealing with life and death situations, and you cannot have some kind of bug in your code that, for example, makes two airplanes collide in such an airplane management system. So in those systems, you have mathematical proofs that this particular event will never happen. The software will never route two airplanes against each other. You have mathematical proofs that this code will never do it. So this is very important in crypto as well, because we're dealing with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in our smart contracts. And so therefore our code is also mission critical. And for now, we do not really have a good way of writing these formal proofs, formal verification, and therefore both Cardano and Tezos are important in 2020 for the whole crypto space.
And how did you find Davos this year? I know we met in Davos this time last year. So second time around, how did you find it?
Very good. I think there are many crypto funds and crypto wealth managers that really did a great job at Davos. I saw many of them organizing events, private events for traditional investors and traditional funds. Because obviously these crypto funds, they want customers, they want clients, so they want to be known. Therefore, they organize these private events. And I had the privilege to be part of some of them. And when they do that, when they have these events, they explain what crypto is, why it's important. And I saw a lot of interest from traditional traditional wealth managers and the traditional finance when they came to those private events and learned about crypto. There were many questions, a lot of excitement, especially now when we see DeFi growing. And in DeFi you can get 6-7% return on your dollars, and it's a no-brainer to put your funds into DeFi. And you realize that maybe DeFi is the biggest threat to the traditional banking system short term, because it's literally eating their lunch when it comes to borrowing money and lending money. So it's very big. DeFi is the biggest thing of 2020. And also, just today I reported on the fact that Mashable wrote how they could easily take a loan from DeFi without meeting anyone or without signing any contracts. And obviously Mashable is a mainstream news outlet. So it is yet still very small, and people still don't really know about DeFi in the traditional space in the mainstream, but I think it will be big very soon, because it's a no-brainer that people want to earn interest on their money, and there is no interest, zero, in traditional savings accounts for most people. So therefore it's so important.
So it seems like that's really a key phrase that investors and wealth managers are looking into. On the topic of investors, I have to ask you about Tim Draper. We saw him recently feature on Fox News.
So if I'm thinking, hey, I'm a millennial right now, I'm thinking, hey, go Bitcoin, go decentralized, start building your empire in the new model that doesn't require that you have to pay 2.5% to 4% every time you swipe your credit card to some bank or another. I think if you really want it to work, I think you go Bitcoin or crypto or the new way. I would focus on the future, because this has worked for your father and your grandfather, but it will not work for you.
And he did say to the host that Bitcoin is something that millennials should be investing in. When we look at adoption and the next wave, what kind of things are we expecting and also requiring to see from millennials?
Education, that's the big thing, because many people still think that crypto is super risky and that you should stay away. There's so much misinformation. The only thing that is missing is education, in my view, because Bitcoin is an asymmetrical opportunity, meaning that your downside is very small, while your upside is unlimited. So if you are a millennial, you're a young person, meaning that you can handle a bit of risk. And by the way, having cash in your bank account is also a big risk, because just by having cash in your bank account, you're betting that the bank will not collapse, that the banking system will survive and will continue to handle your funds properly. So there you're taking a big bet, and that is not a given. Absolutely. Look at Deutsche Bank stock. It went down 95% during the past 10 years. Not many people recognize it. Deutsche Bank stock went down 95%. Many people point that altcoins say that they are pump and dumps because they lost 95%. Well, Deutsche Bank also lost 95%. So therefore, just this education and understanding that being in crypto is not very risky if you really think about it. In fact, if you ignore crypto, you ignore it at your own risk. And you should not ignore it. It's irresponsible to ignore crypto. And especially if you are a millennial, because you're a young person, even if we have a bear market for a few more years, which I think is highly improbable, but if we do, a young person still has so many years to work and earn money and build their wealth. So especially when you're young, you cannot ignore crypto, and it's so important that people understand it.
So more education and more information, which I think is why we're so excited to see you speak in our AIBC Summit Conference in Manila in June. And I know a lot of our attendees and delegates are also very excited to meet you there. Now, on the topic of June and the summit, just before that, we are going to see the Bitcoin halving in May. What kind of things are we expecting in the build-up, the anticipation, pricing in and factoring in, and also the aftermath of the halving? What are you expecting?
I expect the prices to increase quite a bit. I mean, obviously, nobody knows exactly how much they will increase, but before the halving, I expect people to trade Bitcoin and to really take position so that they are in the market for the halving. Now, whether we'll go to 11, 12, 13, 15,000 is difficult to say, but I expect an increase, a quite significant increase before the halving. The halving itself might actually be a bearish event because, always it's about buying the rumor and selling the news. And in this case, we're buying up before the halving, and then many bears, I think, will utilize halving to sell, because all of this hype, all of this information about the halving, it's a perfect time to dump your position if you want to dump, because Otherwise, if you want to sell, you would be facing slippage. If you want to sell large amount, you will be facing slippage, which means that the price decreases as you sell, and you will not be able to sell at the prices we're at right now. But if you have a lot of buyers that you can sell into, is the perfect opportunity. So I think because there's so much hype and so many people are excited about the halving, and everyone knows about the halving, there will probably be this classic buy the rumor, sell the news, that people get excited, they buy before the halving. When the halving actually happens, probably we'll see a bit of a sell-off. But then a few months after the halving, then the stock to flow model will really kick in, and the supply shortage will really kick into the market, and then we will see these big increases in prices that many people are expecting. And I do agree with that in a few months after the halving, maybe at the end of the year, that is when it will be truly interesting. So that is my prediction. And to me, it makes sense that we'll increase before the halving. We might have a sell-off during the halving, and then in a few months we will return and go to new all-time highs.
Well, we'll have to catch up in Manila, have another sit down, and see how things have panned out for sure. Ivan, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. It's always a pleasure. Very much looking forward to seeing you in Manila, and look forward to tuning in to your live show tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks.
Well, that's all from myself and Ivan on Tech. We'd love to hear how you found this segment. Share your thoughts with us, and if there's anything you would like us to discuss, drop a comment in the comment box below, and see you all very soon.